Hey guys, Lunar-Flame here, and today I'm going to do a tutorial on wings, and I'm very sorry about the quality. I'm also going to be trying not to laugh during this. This is going to be a tutorial on feathers. Okay, let's get started. So, the first thing I do is that I draw what I'm going to do for the wings. And now wing shapes are generally like that. They have this little thing right here. I used to think that it was like this. Not like that. But either way, it was really, really different until I actually looked at the actual anatomy. And I might bring up some reference during this because I do not draw feathered wings much. If you look at my actual art, you will see that I rarely draw feathers. And what you want to do is that you want to draw like the general area, like bird wings. They're kind of like, you know. Either way, the first feather like out here is one of the longer ones, and then the second one is probably the longest after that. And you make these weird little triangle-like things, as you see that I'm making here. But if you don't usually use this method, you would want to use this right here. This will help sometimes. Like if you map out how the feathers themselves are actually like that. Now, and as you can see, I have to be following the curves because that's kind of how the thing is. As you can see, I'm continuing making these little shapes. Now, I'm not a pro myself, but these are just like some little tips that you could use. I usually don't use that. I'm used to doing like thick, broad wings like ravens or crows. So I'm just gonna do like a wing and its general shape, and I cannot talk, so please do not criticize me for that. And that's how you get to the basic shape of the wing. Now when you color that, now they have different layers. The different layers, there's generally 3, which is the ones that are at the tip of the wing, the middle of the wing, and then there's the back ones. Now the ones which are the longest, which are kind of like right here that I put on my birds, I categorize them as, you know, the flight ones. Then I categorize the middle ones, and then the rest are like the ones that aren't really that. Okay then. So first I would do probably like something similar to that. Sorry if you find how much I'm talking a bit annoying, but it's the only way I can describe this. Now, it's really hard for me to do feathered wings because that happens. That's a no. More triangular shapes like that are a yes. They're kind of a lewd triangle is probably the best how I can explain how feathers are done. Now, I did 5, 4, maybe 3 tests of the mic, so then it would be as staticky or bad, and you might pick up some background noise early in the recording. I have to say I'm a little sorry for that, and I will play with the volume so it won't blast your freaking ears out or be too quiet, because some videos have a tendency to do that for their first voice thing. And I'm quite excited because, and I am blasting my mouth. Sorry about that. I have a bad tendency to talk, but it's not like I'm playing a horror game yet. I'm just gonna do like a little basic wing, and sometimes in some people's art styles there's a little there for the shoulder, they actually make that a little defined. Actually I'm just gonna use this as line art after I clean it up a bit. Like, to some people it's like, I cannot make line art of this, just, you know, clean up your sketch. If it's a really, really clean sketch like mine was, mine are usually like messy little wisps little wisp lines. It's kind of odd. But either way, I also want to talk about multiple forms of art, but I will not. And some feathers are really small, so I don't even bother to do that. This is going to be a very messy wing because I kind of want to get this done for a friend. Either way, I only use 3 layers for wings themselves because it's really simple, and that's how some of it's done. I'm going to do one of my OC's wings who has dark gray on both, and then it has a weird blue that looks very similar to a purple. And if you're going to paint this, you want to make a new layer. I have it on normal, and then you would want to, you know, kind of define the feather itself. So if you're painting, you do not use line art. Did I seriously paint on my line art? Did I? I did. Crap. And that's also one of the many mistakes you can make while drawing. Just paint on your liner now. This, if it's like a certain program where you currently can't access layers, then it's okay to do that. I just personally don't do that. When it comes to shading, you want to grab a gray. I normally use watercolor for this, and I reduce the opacity. I believe that's how it's pronounced. If you kill me in the comments, please. Not like you guys are gonna kill me there anyway. But if you are, please be considerate. I can't even pronounce Luna. Either way, it's like this weird metal thing, aluminum. Sounds similar to that. So you want to go with varying shades of dark colors. Now for the ends of the tips, if the light is coming from here, then you would want to do shading that's very similar to this, because the feathers in the back, they have a shadow over them, depending on the length of the past feathers themselves. Yeah, I'm just gonna shade that in right there. As you can see, I put this very long. I consider this, as well as the back section, I also consider it as a middle section because of where it's located up on the wing. You need to know, now you don't really have to know anatomy to make wings, but it really, scratch that, you need to know anatomy to know wings. But if you look at an actual bird's wing or someone's sketches of a wing, you'll sometimes see, I sometimes build off shapes. If it's something new, I build off basic shapes. If it's something I'm familiar with, I build off the stick figure method. I'm going to make a video on that will be posted like next month. I know I'm not very active, but it usually kills my internet, so or every time I've done it so far, my dad, except for once, has been downloading game stuff, and our family is like big on gaming. I'm like the little doodler of the family. And one time I was drawing something, my parents, my mom, I only have one mom, for goodness sake, I cannot talk. Yeah, you also need to be very considerate of where you're shading. She looked over and was like, "Oh wow, did you do that?" But yeah, I'm using someone else, except I'm using other people's OCs. And she's like, "Then you didn't do yourself." I'm like, "No, an OC is an original character." So on that day, she knew that it was an original character. And depending on the position of the wing, you're gonna have to shade in here too. Now, like, this is just like basic, but if you want to go more into detail, you use darker colors, more varying shades. sometimes you need to lengthen the shadow. I commonly used a softer shading, which in Fire Alpaca it's called Gaussian blur, as you can see I'm using. And it would do this to the wing and make it look a lot rounder. Now I wouldn't do this as a paint, I would like single every feather out. So I'm just gonna fill some of these areas in right here. Now, in the annotations, it probably would tell you in the beginning, forget it does, on what go, and yet again, when you single out a feather, you probably want to put this layer multiply and not have the full opacity. I really like the watercolor for this because it plays with the thing. You single every feather out when you're painting like this. And you do it to every feather, which is why I am never painting a feather. Now you will play with the opacity, the colors itself. And sometimes feathers are really tiny, so then you play with the size, make it smaller, just to make it fit. That's kind of how you do a wing, just except you do that all the way across. And that is how you do a wing. Hope you, or should I say feathers, attached to a wing. Hope you enjoyed. Please comment and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video.